Live from the House of LeMay Makeup and Dressing Room.
Here comes Amber. Stop what you're doing. Here comes Amber. She's just doing what she can. Here comes Amber. Cue the spotlight. Here comes Amber with 2 drinks in her hand. The matriarch of fashion, sequins to her glasses. You can't look away. Ask her, does she do it? There's really nothing to it. She's got that feminine game. If you have a party, or if you're feeling naughty, call up the House of LeMay. Here comes your favorite gal. Here comes your queen. Here comes your talk of the town. And we're live tonight. The music starts playing. It's time for cabareting. And we're live tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn off all cell phones and get ready for your host, Amber LeMay.
June is Pride Month, but the pendulum is swinging back to the 1950s as the radical right wing wants us back in the closet, or in some cases, the casket. They're after us again. We and our allies outnumber them, but they are noisier and angrier. We need to get noisy again and angrier than them. So, as we celebrate our Pride this month, let's make sure we remember the struggles of our ancestors and ensure that future generations don't look back at us and wonder, what the hell happened?
We're starting to send a message to DeSantis that his law doesn't work down here. Yeah, so I'm going as Lady Vote. So drag will still be well represented. You know, it's going to be a political statement. I think it's important that politicians, that we stand up, right? And one of the things that he can do with this law is recall, you know, a commissioner or an elected official for violating it. And so I'm outright hoping that he'll do that. So I have an opportunity to challenge his law in court and ultimately get it overturned.
This recent trend of putting these laws together is a rallying call. I really see it that way. I really, really think that this is an opportunity for our allies and our community to join really tightly and to really say, no, we will not put up with this, and, you know, vote these suckers out. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Hello. Amber LeMay here, welcoming you to another edition of Amber Live. But first, I want you to like, share, subscribe. Thank you. And Pride, like June, is busting out all over, and that is pissing some people off in this week's news briefs. Fox News reported that the White House was decorated this week in what some people call a flag that represents a cult of pedophilia. As you can see, the flag in question is what is called the Progress Pride flag. Fox reported that someone from a group known as Gays Against Groomers said the flag represents to us an ideology, a political statement of indoctrinating kids and trans kids and pushing kids to sterilize and mutilate themselves. They also quoted someone on TikTok saying this goes into what's called minor attracted person or youth attracted person, pedophile flag. But it seems that Fox themselves have no problems with the flag. As you can see, they used it as part of their corporate social responsibility annual report. In other Pride flag-related news, Representative and soon-to-be grandmother at the age of 36, Lauren Family Values Boebert, got bent all out of shape when the United States Air Force tweeted this. She replied, "We salute one flag and one flag only in the United States. It isn't the Pride flag." As you can see, the silhouette isn't saluting a flag, but why should facts get in the way of anything she has to say? Finally, Roger Marshall, a United States Senator from Kansas, has introduced a bill aimed at preventing government buildings from flying any flag other than the American flag. The bill, known as the One Flag for All Act, will make it illegal to fly, drape, or display any flag other than the American flag on federal buildings or properties, with limited exceptions. His bill is a response to the Biden administration's decision to fly the pride flag over the weekend during a gay pride celebration at the White House. I wonder if he objected to these flags that were flying on Capitol grounds on January 6th. Or this one inside the building. Maybe those would fall under his limited exceptions amendment. And that's this week's headlines. Hey, Russell, come on in.
Hey, Amber, how are you?
All right. All right. Happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday. It's been a busy week. I went to Rhode Island this week.
You know, I have never been to Rhode Island.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a long, long time, and I went up for a convention that I was working at. And got home at 2 a.m. last night, so I'm a bit tired.
Oh, I bet you are.
At midnight, we were stuck at the George Washington Bridge for an hour. Can you imagine? They were doing construction. It was.
Oh, thank you. Well, you look great, but we want to make sure everyone makes sure you look great. What's the best way to watch?
Well, the best way to watch is to go to YouTube, and you can go to youtube.com/Amber Live, and there are two great reasons to go there. One, as Amber mentioned, everything looks better there because on YouTube it's in full HD. And two, when you go there, all your friends will be in the chat room so we can have a great conversation with you. And Amber and I may even be in the chat room. And as you saw, we have TikToks and Instagrams and all kinds of other places, even a great website, amberlive.tv, where you can go find us. So go find Amber and give her a shout out, give her a watch, share her. But tonight, watch on YouTube.
And what else could they do when they go to our website?
Well, when they go to our website, they can help us out by becoming a bustier, and we love our bustiers. We've had so many of them over the years, but there are a lot of expenses to this show, so we do need people to help us out, and you can see the great list of bustiers there. If you'd like to use Venmo, you can use the Venmo at RJD Pro, or go to the website, as Amber mentioned, and look for the Support Amber Live area and click on the donate button, and you can use your credit card there. So it all helps. And, you know, what else are you doing tonight? You aren't out drinking, so how about giving us that $5 that you would have spent on a drink anyway?
$5? Where are they drinking? I want to join them.
Maybe it was an extreme happy hour. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
A $5 drink would make me very happy. All right, Russell, tell us about the guests tonight.
Oh, my goodness. What a week. What guests we have. We have two great guests tonight. We have Kevin Bolling, who is the director of the Secular Student Association, and he's coming in to talk to Amber and find out what kind of secular she is. And
I ask.
You do ask. And then after that, we have the brother/drag sister of one of our past guests. We have Trixy Valentine, who is related to Harpy Daniels, who was on. And Trixy has written a book and is a sex educator. So we got a lot to talk about tonight.
Both are very, very fun and informative interviews. So let's get started right now. Since 2017, Kevin Bolling has been the executive director of the Secular Student Alliance. Before that, he served as the executive director of the California Thoroughbred Horsemen's Foundation, and most recently, Kevin served as the director of philanthropy at the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles. We have a lot to talk about. Kevin, come on in.
I'm happy to be joining you, Amber.
All right. First, I got to talk. Tell me about the Horsemen's Foundation. What was that about?
So yeah, interesting. A nonprofit in the thoroughbred racing industry in the United States, and so it was actually a great organization. And there are the backstretch workers, so the people who train and take care of the horses. And the purpose of the organization was to provide basically mental, medical, dental, and vision care, and other social services for the workers and their families throughout the state of California. So there's a northern and southern racing circuit that run concurrently. And so about 5,000 workers, and we provided that care for them.
That's great. Who knew that there was that type of organization available?
Yeah, a lot of money in the racing industry, so they need to be taking care of their people.
Well, very good. And how about the Los Angeles Gay Men's Chorus? Tell us about that gig.
Oh, sure. Organization near and dear to my heart. I love the Men of the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles. So not only, I think very well-known, renowned chorus, is, in the choral movement, but is also, you've seen them on TV. There are, lots of different shows. We're on the Oscars, those sorts of things. And in addition to all the concerts, they have several youth outreach programs. So where they were doing the It Gets Better tour, so going around and doing a week-long residency in states across the country, and all about raising awareness for LGBT causes and students, and anti-bullying and those sorts of things. They also are in a program where they go into high schools in the local Los Angeles area and do music and LGBT education. And then they're also involved in a program in the youth incarceration program, and going in and doing sort of choral work with youth in the system, and empowering and just coming together, and obviously chorals, community singing, and those sorts of things. So lots of youth enrichment programs as well with the chorus.
Wow! It's just not a bunch of pretty boys singing. That's great.
A lot of pretty boys singing and a lot of good work.
Very good work. All right, now tell me about this secular association.
Sure. So the Secular Student Alliance is, we work with non-religious students all across the country. So we have student chapters like clubs and clubs and groups at universities and colleges, and so that's the main heart of our work. But we also work with students in high schools and middle schools, and we're soon be announcing that having some clubs actually in elementary schools. So the percentage of young people in the United States who are non-religious continues to grow at a very fast rate. And we're almost at 50% of students today are non-religious. And so it's a little bit when we hear in politics or in our society about, we're a Christian nation and we're all Christians, and there's this assumption, I think, to garner their point. The reality is that the United States is becoming much, much, much less religious. The general population is about 40%, and young people today are almost 50%.
So what are your activities? What do you do?
So through our organization, we provide a lot of support for the students. So to sort of, we still find students who think they're the only non-religious person or atheist on campus. So it's about building community. And like in areas in Utah is where we have really strong active chapters, because there's a large religious presence in the society. So they need sort of that safe place to come together. But we also want to be proud about their identity, which as LGBT people, I think we understand as well. And then we really want them to, develop lifelong activism. So it's about leadership development, and then finding things that they're passionate about and really sort of living those out in their lives. Where we say you've got we're on this world for a short time, so let's make it the best place that we can and make it better place for others before we leave.
Okay, what is the difference, if there is one, between non-believers, agnostics, and atheists?
Sure. So it's so we have, I think the common term that we hear a lot is the nones, or nothing in particular. So that's where, when on questions about religion, they say, none. Where really, so it's a little bit of a gray area. It's on a spectrum. And so your agnostics are people who are like, I don't think there's a God, but I can't prove that, so I'm willing to leave that possibility open. And atheists are really like, I don't believe there's a God. If there's some evidence that comes along that says that there is, I'm happy to look at that. But for more and more young people, they're identifying as atheists, humanists, non-religious. And so for them, they're like, the bastions of religion and the sort of the structures that we have are very less important to them. And so, they look that the government should be providing for people, and we should all have, basic human rights, and the government should be taking care of us.
Are you in all 50 states?
We are, before COVID, we were actually Vermont and Montana were the two states we didn't have chapters. And so we're in a rebuilding stage coming out of COVID, like many organizations that work with students and in college and universities. So we're definitely building up, but our goal next year is to do a good push to be in all 50 states again.
Well, Vermont, I believe, has been noted as the least religious state in the union, so I think you'd have a nice fit here.
Right. So again, in some cases, students go, well, religion's not a big deal, so this isn't as important. Our students are very involved in issues of the separations of state and church, and so which I think is, in our society right now is a huge issue as we have politicians and prevalent people in society. Again, we're a Christian nation and really pushing sort of a theocracy in the United States, which is not how we were designed to be.
Do you get any pushback?
We do. Our students get pushback, and so often in high school and high school mainly, we'll see it where a principal may not be really excited about the idea of a non-religious chapter starting, and so we work with a couple of other nonprofits who have the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which we always say has a floor of lawyers. They're fantastic. They will send a letter off to a campus administrator or a school principal, and I would say 99.9% of the time they realize that they have to allow this student to form the club, and that usually does a lot of the problems. I would say we have seen a sort of a rise in animus and harassment from actually conservative Christian students against our students, and is just as sort of LGBT students are realizing that, and even students of non-white race are seeing that as well. So we're sort of all in that, I think, collective pool, and a lot of that animus we're seeing generally in our society.
Do you get any pushback from parents? Do parents call you up and say, "What are you doing to my kid?"
So one of our programs that we do nationally is we do every summer, and we're currently going on right now, is our secular activist scholarships. And so we have it's all nationwide, and students can apply. We have it's really students who care about the separation of church and state, and intersectional activism is really sort of the crux of what we look at. So we have religious students who apply and who have received scholarships as well, but the primary focus is non-religious students. We every year we have one student who is like, I can't be public about this because my parents don't know that I'm non-religious. And so we obviously are working with the students. We don't want them to, we have had situations where students have been kicked out of their homes, where students have been cut off financially in college. So we have seen that. So we're very sensitive of that, and obviously work with those students in those situations. And an interesting thing is we often will have students say, it was easier for me to come out as a lesbian than it was as non-religious to my parents.
Wow, that's something. I believe we have some pictures. Can you tell us about these pictures?
Oh, happy to, sure. So again, our students are very active, and so this is our group at the University of Wisconsin-Madison who are actually participating in their Pride Parade. So we often find that our students are involved in local community events, which is what we want them to do, and we have a high percentage of our students who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, and so they're not only supporting the local community and LGBT people, but also, their fellow members in the organization.
Well, cool. How about another picture?
Sure. So this is just a fun picture from our conference a couple of years ago. So we're actually holding our conference this year in Missouri, and so it's going to be in the middle of June. And so it's a great time. We often say it's the largest gathering of secular students anywhere in the United States. So yeah, this is a fun little picture of our students. So there's one of our groups on campus. So they do part of their mission, and ours as well as an organization, is normalizing non-religion. So as the growing number of young people are becoming non-religious, often people don't think that. So we help normalize that. So they do some fun programs, Hug an Atheist, Ask an Atheist, where you come and ask any question you want. Some are very serious, some are very funny. So just getting our students out, them having a good time on campus and doing those sorts of things. Just another fun picture from our conference.
Your conference is going to be in Missouri. Now, that's not the most friendliest state to people of our persuasion. Why did you choose Missouri?
It's not. Well, we always do our conference at a school, and so yes. But oftentimes going to a state, one, you allow students, in the local area, or sort of adjacent states who sort of really need sort of that leadership development, hearing great speakers, all the grassroots organizing workshops. So it allows them to, makes it easier for them to participate. So we oftentimes will look for areas where it's easy for students to get to. And yeah, Missouri is a state that needs a lot of help. And so while we're there, we have some of the local politics that get involved. So we have Senator Megan Hunt from Nebraska, who's coming down to talk to our students. We have an assemblyman from St. Louis, and then Justice Horn, who is the LGBT commissioner, I think for the state. We're going to go with that. If not, I just gave him a promotion. But he's also coming in. So we really try to pull in those local resources as well. Very good.
You've mentioned politics a few times. What's going on and how can we stop it?
Yeah, I think how can we stop it? Stopping it is us getting politically involved. I mean, there's a reality, is going in and getting involved with your school board, running for your school board. Some school boards in some cities are decided by 16 votes. So going out, getting involved, running for position, donating to candidates, and going out and voting. So we do a lot of work with, we know that 89% of our students' members are registered to vote. So we obviously are doing a lot of work on that. But I think politics right now is, in part, I think some of it is to do with the growing number of non-religious. So the Christian people who feel like they should be in the majority are nervous about that. And as the United States becomes more and more pluralistic and more diverse, the white males are really having some issues and going, even though they're not, I'm losing my power. And I really think what we're seeing is this last-ditch effort to really fight against that and to claim it as long as they can. So when we look at, this is a Christian nation, and let me exert my religious values on you, and then codify that into law, taking away everyone else's autonomy. This is serious. And I think especially, obviously women with overturning of Roe versus Wade and all of the just sort of draconian and really abortion bans in some states now. We're talking 6 weeks. It's a ban on abortion, basically. So, and then just for LGBT people, this is just a horrible overtime, especially for our trans friends. And obviously that while different, also our drag friends who are also having a horrible time. And then really, I mean, it's going as far, racial minorities and any sort of marginalized community of color is really having some issues just with their erasure of their history and the denial of existence, and the same thing that we're seeing with LGBT folk as well. So it's getting worse. And I always hope that pendulum swings back. But I do think we're seeing that last ditch effort of just people are white, male, cisgender Christians are scared. And, it's unfortunate at this moment.
Very, very, very much so. Well, it's June. It is Pride Month. And because of some of that backlash from the politicians, several prides have had to alter some of their plans. No festivals or no drag people, performers at their festivals. How sad is that?
I think it's really sad. One, I think when you look sort of at LGBT people being able to be open and being proud, and really where we were going, not that far ago in the United States, just as a general, as culturally, I think it was fantastic. And there was a poll that came out, I think it was last week, and it's something like 70% of people in the United States think that the government should be protecting LGBT people and companies should be promoting pride, and all of these sorts of things where we are pro diversity and pluralism in the United States. the majority of Americans are still on board. It's this small vocal community that really is making it difficult. And I think, the interesting thing that we saw with Target recently, a great display, and realizing there's a commercial value to that, and them doing that. And our organization responded to them on Twitter going, hey, look, LGBT people, have people coming at them all the time, and they stand up strong and don't back down. For you to have a pride parade or pride display and selling merchandise and to back down so quickly, you are not an ally, and you're not embracing what everyday LGBT people have to go through. So, it's sort of like stand up for it and realize it's going to be difficult sometimes, because that's what, gay and lesbian and bisexual and trans people have to do all the time.
And Walmart said they won't back down, that they're going to keep all their Pride merchandise. And if you don't like it, go shop at Target, I guess.
And which is fantastic. And North Face also, they were like, nope, we're not going, we're not backing down. So I think with recently with the Dodgers, at first taking the honor and award away from the LA Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and then Target, I think we've sort of seen where companies now are going, okay, this isn't worth it. And there's a reality here. There has to be acknowledgement that conservative Christian people and Christian nationalists, they don't want some concessions. They want it all. They want to eliminate, trans people. They want to, and some people are going, we need to kill trans people. We need to kill LGBT, gay people. So they don't want concessions. So just doing a little bit is not what they want. They want the complete annihilation of. And we're not going there. Like, LGBT people are not going there. People of color are not going there. Women are not going there. So I think there's a hopefully a strong message to corporations now. Okay, this isn't worth it, because making the concession isn't going to do it.
You've been with that organization for 7 years now, 6-7 years. How long do you think you'll be staying there, and what would you like to do in the future?
Sure. I really enjoy my job. I love working with young people, and I think a lot of the sort of life experiences of non-religious people are very much echo the LGBT community. So it's really an enriching place for me. I love the energy from young people. So no plans on leaving soon. If I did, I'd probably want to stay doing something with youth. Or sort of getting back into sort of LGBT civil rights. So, and that's a little bit of, sort of the blend of my two history, work history and then volunteer experience sort of falls into those areas.
Education did you have to get you into those great jobs that you had?
I was an undeclared major for like winter quarter of my junior year in college. So no idea what I wanted to do. But I was active in school, so I was on the campus activities board, and I was an RA, and I did orientation and all these sorts of things, and so I really loved doing that. And so then went to graduate school to get my master's in education to specifically work at college universities, and realized again as I really love working with that with young students and the leadership development that takes place and those sorts of things. And then in California, I was working for 2 different schools. And the student governments and the student unions are nonprofits within the educational system. So that nonprofit experience background. But I think the guiding thing for me is it's really important that I go home every day knowing that what I do for work helps other people and benefits our general society. And so that just, it's important, it's one of my striving forces and just makes me feel good about what I do every day.
Well, Kevin, you do good every day. So thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for talking to us tonight.
My pleasure. It was great speaking with you.
Thank you. Wow, what a nice interview. Russell, come on in.
Yay! Yeah, he is amazing. What work he does.
and thank you so much for finding these guests, because he's doing something I had no idea there was anything like that going on. Here we brought it to our fans of Amber Live. So thank you. What else do we have coming up on the show?
Oh, we have so much more coming up on the show. As we mentioned before, we've got Trixy Valentine coming up. We've got Amber's Altar-Cations. We've got Rocco. We've got an Amber Rant. And we have a special little pride moment that you're going to be talking about. And away we go.
All right. Very good.
So, but you know what keeps it all going, Amber?
Yep, I do.
Bustiers. We love our bustiers. So if you can help us out, use that Venmo or go to amberlive.tv and look for the support button. So thank you, bustiers.
If you want to support a pride organization this year, why not Amber Live? We're pretty proud. All right. Let's get into Altar-Cations. Altar-Cation is our weekly report in response to those who say it's the drag queens grooming and molesting children. Who is really putting the children in danger? Well, in Norman, Oklahoma, it was 45-year-old Christopher Forcade who was arrested on 4 complaints of lewd acts with a child and 2 complaints of possession of child pornography. Forcade was listed on the First Christian Church of Norman website as its director of children's ministries. Police say there are multiple victims. In Pennsylvania, it was Brandon Da Silva, who was recently charged for the 2nd time with possessing child pornography. He is a former youth pastor of Weaverland Anabaptist Faith Community Church. Police say Da Silva failed to register his Twitch account and email address with Pennsylvania State Police, which was a condition of a prior conviction. He is charged with possession of child pornography, criminal use of a communication facility, and failure to comply with registration requirements. Meanwhile, from Canada, a minister of a Kingston, Ontario church, Timothy Milley, was recently sentenced to 10 years in prison for using the internet to entice a 15-year-old Detroit girl to engage in illegal sexual activity. After months of grooming, Milley traveled to the United States and convinced the minor to meet with him in front of her school, where he picked her up. He took her to a hotel, had sexual intercourse with her, and before returning her to her school and abandoning her in front of the building. Shameful. And yet, if you look at the comments that people leave on our YouTube videos, it is me and other drag queens who are the groomers. And that's this week's Altar-Cations. Trixy Valentine, come on in.
Hi, hello, Amber.
Oh, Trixy, I am so happy to see you and to talk to you about your new book. Tell me about your book.
Well, my beautiful book called Tipping is a Must is 100 tips on how to run a drag show, specifically in 5 different categories and areas on the perspective of being a drag performer, being an audience member, being a show producer, owner, a fan of drag, and then that backstage etiquette that we really don't always talk about.
Okay, let's take it one step at a time. What's that first chapter?
So the first chapter talks about tips, specifically being a drag performer, and all those small tips that we don't always get to learn right away. We've had to learn the hard way. So like learning consent as a drag performer is really important of making sure.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, consent of just knowing our spaces and making sure we're setting the precedence of people in the room. So a lot of the drag shows I've run or ran, one of my biggest tips is to consent for the audience member. And as drag performers, we have to let them know how to do that, since we're in the middle of performing. We could be singing, we could be acting, whatever it is. And if we're doing that interaction and an audience member doesn't want to, as performers, we should be aware of what those signs could be. You know, you just put an X up, right? And like, that's one of the tips as a drag performer that I've learned brings value and safety into a drag show that is not talked about a lot in our settings a lot of the time.
Well, tell me how you've been threatened.
So for me, how I've been threatened, I've had people tried to get physical or anything like that with just a general performance, because they're there to have a good time, but like they're not the ones. They where I perform, it's very rural. A lot of the people are not queer individuals. They don't know a lot about drag, so when they hear about these shows, they want to go for the experience. And for me, it's one of those like, okay, we're going to give you the experience, and then like sometimes for me, you know, you get these rude comments right away, like, oh, don't come near me, don't come touch me. And they're saying it while you're in the middle of a performance. And it's like, you don't have to get all defensive. You can literally just show me, and your nonverbals, like, I'm just here to watch. Like, voyeurism is okay.
Another tip?
Another tip, so specifically is in, you threw me off. No, another tip for the actually, this is an audience member tip. We'll go with an audience member tip, and it's like, don't take that selfie while we're performing. If we're in the middle of a performance and someone tries to stop us, and it's also like a 2-4, and like, first, don't grab us, like, don't put your hands on us. We'll go back to consent. But like, they have their cameras out and they're trying to take that photo of us, and we're trying to, we're in the moment of that experience, and it's like, can you come take a photo? No, there's after the show and before the show. Why are you doing it during the show?
It's all about them. It's all about them.
Right. We're the divas. And they're over here like, I need to make a good profile picture. And I was like, I would love to be your profile picture, but it's not going to be when I look like this. It's not going to happen.
How about another tip for an audience member?
For an audience member, another tip. Ooh, you know what? Let's just pull it right out of the book. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So for this, I definitely. Oh, that's backstage etiquette. Mm-hmm. Oh, respecting the venue, 100%. So I've had a lot of times where we have some audience members who they kind of get a little, we'll call them sloppy for not really a different word. They get a little bit too alcohol. They get a little too rowdy. They have their moment, and we all can have our moment. But if you're over here getting a little bit too loud, too much, and causing a scene, and it's no longer fun, like, that is a bad audience member. You should be able to contain yourself. You could, have a drink if you want one, have a laugh, but at the end of the moment, it's not just you in that room. There are hundreds of other people there, and audience members really need to understand, like, don't be a Becky. And for anyone named Becky, I'm so sorry. That's just what I call them at my show. They're the ones at their Christmas party at work where they, are like standing on the table getting loud at their work party. This is not that moment. Save it for a different show, not for ours.
Okay, these are tips, but how about audience members tipping? What's the protocol? What's the etiquette?
Yeah, so the etiquette in tipping, so a lot of times you just stick your dollar up in the air and you wave it or that kind of thing. And also, it really depends on the show. So tipping is a must. That is one of the things that, in reality, as drag performers, not all of them are able to make a lot of money related to the door, or some of the door goes to like the venue and the performers, depends on kind of the contracts that are going out there. So tipping your performers is that gratitude, right? To thank them for their performance or show them a way of like, here's more money, or here's a way that you can continue the art and workflow of what you're doing. Because it takes a lot of money to look this cheap.
Yes, it does. Let's see. How about a producer? What's a tip for a producer?
So a show producer is pay your performers. That was one of the top, but pay your people. Like, I have worked with people who try to quote unquote be shady and be like, oh, our money didn't come in yet. We have to wait till the check comes. And then you're just sitting there like, where are you? Where's the money? Like, you did not just, give me, I did not give you a free gig in this moment. And so venue owners, producers, they really need to know how to budget. They need to know how to finance. They need to know where to set that up. It is literally all about event planning and business at the point of who's doing it. And that's really hard sometimes because we think drag is all about fun and we want to be entertaining, but we need those business people. We need those venue owners and managers and the producers of these shows to be like, nope, this is the way it has to be. Here are our boundaries, here are our guidelines, and pay your people. Like, the number one tip I can say is pay your people. And that's just not drag performers, your DJs, your dancers, your employees, your staff. Like, pay your people at these moments and venues.
What if it's a benefit for a good cause? What about performing for that?
That's one of my tips in there. So if it's a benefit, I think it's okay as long as transparency is there, right? So as drag performers, we give our time and energy for free a lot of the times, and that's okay. And there's a lot of shows we do. It's Pride Month right now. So a lot of us are doing Pride for free because it's helping out other organizations or going to a really great cause for the community. And I think that's okay. The only thing I say about that is you have to be transparent in it, right? So some people will do it for free. Like, that is okay.
All right, you mentioned backstage stuff. Tell me about that. I have no idea what goes on back there.
I mean, who knows, right? No, backstage etiquette is, for me, the one thing I learned about who you want to work with, right? It's where we have our wigs off. You can see all this goodness. You can see everything. Backstage etiquette is all about how to be professional, what to look like, how to sound like, in the sense of like having good relationships with someone, right? Like if someone comes in with like a bad attitude and starts taking out on everyone else, like that's going to bring the energy down. And we as sisters, brothers, and drag performers, we really need to be able to sit there and say, hey, are you good? Are you okay? Like, let's figure stuff out so we don't continue disrupting that energy, because what we portray backstage can sometimes show up in our performances and outside in front of all of that. And that's not good at all.
How did you learn so much? You're so young.
Oh, thank you. This makeup really do make me look young. No, I have been doing drag since I was 20, so a little over 9 years, and just through practice, through all the hardship work, doing so many shows, going out there, and just saying, I'm going to do it. And I was actually one of those queens. I did not look pretty. I look pretty now. I did not then. And it was, thank you. And it was one of those, I didn't get booked a lot. So I was like, I'm going to do my own shows. So I learned how to network. I learned how to invest my time. I learned how to then put on my own shows. And then like that, there's a lot that goes on when you start being your own show producer, putting all these shows and asking. And after, 9.5 years of doing it, I'm just like, I could walk into anywhere now and go, you want a drag show? I got you. You want a drag bingo, drag trivia? You want a story hour? I got you. I've learned the tips and tricks to knowing how to run successful shows that a lot of people will come, that will feel safe, and that are actually queer-centered and are for our community.
All right. I've got some pictures here that I'd like to share with you. Let me see if I can find them and tell me what they're about. All right. What's this?
Yeah, so that picture showed up on the morning call for a news article specifically about the climate of what's happening for drag. But that's me hosting at the Majestic Theater in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. And my finger's up because we do this fun thing where we, instead of saying like a holler or sounding like a, screeches in the wind of screaming of you're feeling it, you just say the word yes. So you kind of stick your index finger up in the air and you're like, yeah. So that's the demonstration that's happening. And it's a really good shot of the audiences kind of showing that of my hosting skills.
Oh, looks like a nice house.
Yes, full packed. I mean, except for the front row, but everyone knows that's the splash zone, so that's not where you really want to.
As we often said about my dear departed sister Marguerite, either spit or sweat, you're going to get wet. And what this is the Drag Angel show I absolutely love at the Berwick Theater in Berwick, Pennsylvania. This is my hometown. This is a theater. It was a packed house of 120 people, and it was filled. And to see my names on the marquee on lights was just everything. And so this is one of my most monumental pieces of being a very successful drag producer, for sure. All right. How did you find the name Trixy Valentine?
So the name Trixie came first, and I wanted something cute, like feminine, but like honestly, it was the way we pronounce it. So I'm all about like how we pronounce our words. So I like the extension on the X to the Y. So I was like Trixie. So when you say it, you can say it with such elegance, right? And have that extension in the words. And so Valentine came a little bit later, about a year later, when I was like, what's going to go well with Trixie? Like, no offense to anyone out there, but like, I don't want to standardize like regular name, and I put that as now I feel like my name's a regular name, but like she could be exotic, I guess. But Valentine came because my drag anniversary is February 16th. So it was 2 days after Valentine, and I was just sitting there like, Trixie, Valentine, I could be a Valentine. And then hearts are involved, now a holiday of love. And if anyone that's single out there, if you hate Valentine, you just celebrate Trixie Valentine.
I'd like that. All right. How about this picture?
Yes! Sex education on campus. Let's get juicy. That is one of my promotions for myself and related to universities and campuses where I go and teach sex education on campus. Yes, in and out of drag. And it is my programming of the facts, some of the facts that happen around those ages and the workshops that I have worked on and the keynote speaking that I do. And it's just a great time, a way I run my business and consulting and workshops and education. I'm a sexpert. I'm the expert in this field, being a queer inclusive sex education. And I just absolutely love the work that I do.
Yes, and we will have you back to talk more about your advocacy there. And this is...
Don't be a drag. This is another thing for my business, but specifically for drag. So yes, Trixy Valentine does show up in the classroom. She shows up on stage. A lot of the times universities, institutions are looking for a more engaging way to run some of their topics. And like I taught about pronouns and pronoun usage in drag and taught them the history of what pronouns can look like. But also I taught them about drag history and drag experience and how drag can be a voice that when we get into drag, we can become a different person. That other person, then we build our character, we build our attitude, and we build our persona and our personality and our confidence. Like confidence, attitude, and personality gets created, and that's how we do that.
So what are your preferred pronouns?
So in drag, my pronouns are she, her. Out of drag, when I'm just Jacob, Jake, I am they, them.
Very good, very good. Mine is yo bitch, but that's
alcoholic.
And there's your book again.
There is my book. I am so proud of this book. I'm super excited. I'm also excited to see what tips people's favorites are, since there's 100 to choose from. So I'm really excited to see who's gonna like what. And there's some tips that some people might like, not like, and there's some tips that are not even in this book.
Now, have you gone out and asked for others to bring on maybe a second edition of your book?
I mean, this one just came out, so I haven't even thought about what I could do after this, but I think there will probably be like a volume 2 or Tipping is a Must 2, or we'll call it something else cute, something drag related. I definitely...
How about just the tip?
I'm in it. We have Tipping is a Must and then just the tip. Beautiful. Done. Sold. You sold me.
All right. And who's that?
That's me when I'm not looking so gorgeous. That is me. I am moderating a LGBTQA panel specifically for National Coming Out Day at Penn State University, Harrisburg. And this was one of my favorite interactions to do when I was able to have a conversation with people about what it's like to come out, and then have 3 individuals on a panel to talk to them and their stories. This was me at a regional conference with my good friend Ryan Geiger, who's in that photo with me, and we did a presentation on queer in the world supporting LGBTQA+ students, and we talked about the global interactions of understanding LGBTQA people, and that dress on me is one of my favorite dresses, so honestly this photo should just be focused on that.
So where do you get your outfits?
I am spoiled, and here's why. I have friends who give me stuff, just to give me stuff. Like, I didn't ask for it, they just go here. So like this outfit, my drag mother was like, I don't want this. So she gave this to me and stoned it. But a lot of times it's online. There's good places to find online. And then you kind of repurpose it. You always put a rhinestone on everything. And if you don't, that's for you. That's for you. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. I won't judge, but who knows? No.
I won't judge.
Never.
And then we have this video clip as well. Let's watch that. Okay, and what was that? Bloom may legalize drag? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I started drag here in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. It's the reason why drag has kicked off. And there was a certain point, there was 2 points in the town of Bloomsburg that became questioned. So they had an ordinance, an adult entertainment ordinance that was not changed. So when I did drag for the first time, it got brought up because technically I was impersonating a woman and that was not allowed based off of their ordinance. And there was this whole thing about it, a whole news article came out, and that's sort of what had come up, and they changed it, right? So they changed the ordinance because they're like, this is ridiculous. This ordinance is from the 80s and doesn't fit anymore. And so, I mean, it should have never fit anyway, but they changed the ordinance, and that's what that was for. Yeah.
What's going on around the country with the attacks on the drag, trans, gay community? Have you experienced any of that?
So I, as a LGBT person, as a non-binary person, I face hate depending on how I appear in public, right? So there are times I'm feminine. Like there's a lot of photos you showed me in dresses, right? Not drag, when I'm not in drag. And I have faced, I've been chased down by cars. I have been things thrown at me. I've had people curse and make slurs. There are certain parts when I have to think about and stop and go, if I'm going to a gas station, I go, who's in the parking lot? Because if there's a certain demographic that I'm accustomed to not liking me, I'm like, well, we're not going to this gas station today because there is a safety concern in some of these areas, especially rural Pennsylvania.
I've been talked to many drag queens from all over the country about this. What can we do to stop it?
So one of the ways that I have found is I teach people about allyship, and I teach people about also the concerns of voting and making sure we are having the right people put in place. So I go to town council meetings, and I'm not afraid to be like, this needs to change, right? You are the leaders in this town or in these places. What can you need to be able to do something about it? And I don't just come to say that, like I'll bring up issues or things. And I have gotten to know our police department and stuff. So I was able to talk to them and be on certain experiences where I'm like, no, this really does happen in our town. And they go, we didn't know about that. Yeah, because it's not being reported, or like we're not comfortable going to because we don't think anything's going to happen. If I called you on the phone and was like, hey, we're having an event, can you make sure we have protection? And you go, you'll be fine. Like those are real stories that happen. And so making sure you know your community, building that rapport is such an important thing, because it's the leaders and other people's allyship that we need in these situations and times.
I totally agree. And it's up to us. I've said before, we need to get off the stage and into the streets sometimes. It's up to us. We can't expect others to help us. We have to do it. We have to demand that respect. So, Trixy, a few weeks ago, we had your twin on the show. Tell us about that.
My twin, they did absolutely phenomenal. They looked phenomenal on your show, absolutely. And I watched the whole thing without getting bored, so it was entertaining for sure. No, it was me and my twin. We are a powerhouse together. We both learned and grew up with resilience and this spark about us to be like, we're not backing down. And right now they're facing all these things about the Navy, and like I'm back at our hometown changing that area. And it's just a powerful thing to know that I was literally born with somebody else with the same spirit. And like, we're never alone. We have each other. We are literally like, we're drag queens, we're gay, we're in this, we're changing things, and we're making it happen. So I love my twin to the fullest, and I couldn't say any more things other than proud. I only want to say this to the audience, though. We are both human. So there is this level of making sure we realize like we're humans doing the work, and it's not always easy, right? We sometimes need that time for ourselves. And I think that's why it's important that we're twins first for each other, because while we look this and we do all this work, we also love going to the movies. We love hanging out. We love going getting our nails done. So like there is that reality to it as well.
Well, Trixy, thank you so much. And we're going to have you both back, and we'll talk about your being siblings. That would be a great conversation. Thank you so much, Trixy Valentine.
Thank you so much, Amber.
Thank you, Trixy. And we will have her back. I guarantee it. We've mentioned it before. This is Pride Month, and there's been Pride celebrations all over the world. And I gathered some of my favorite signs that I've seen. Here are some of them now. And he's back. Here comes Rocco.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, Amber, how you doing? It's me, Rocco, in case you didn't know. Listen, I just wanted to acknowledge that today is Father's Day, right? It's the day when we say, hey, Dad, you did all right. And hopefully you did. But, sometimes people are like, what should I get my father for Father's Day? So they get a tie, they get golf balls, they take them fishing. There's always that sort of crap you could always do. But maybe you might want to do something different, like say, hey, let's go hunting for UFOs. And you take them out at night, and you just stare up at the sky, and every time a satellite goes by on an airplane, you go, hey, it's a UFO! And you have a lot of laughs. You know, that's just one thing. The other thing you can do is maybe go to a strip club. You know, those clubs are where you go there and you strip wallpaper off the walls. You know, I was kidding there. But, you know, there's a lot of things you can do to bond with your father. And maybe you should go do them. Don't ask me what they are. Why are you asking me? You should know. You know your father. Now, unfortunately, some people, their fathers are no longer here. I'm sorry, my father's no longer here either. I used to go with Carmine Zamboni. We used to go to like canola eating contests and stuff. We'd enter, he'd win, and then he'd throw up all over the place. It was brilliant. So those are fond memories I have of my dad. That and fishing. And we went canoeing once. We tipped over. It was hilarious. We lost everything. So anyway, give your dad a call. Throw him up a prayer. Say, thanks, Dad. I'm turning out all right. But, gee, thanks, Dad. Look at the shit show that I am. But either way, your dad, hopefully he tried hard. He did the best he could, you know? Right? Dads do the best they can? What do I know? Anyway, have a good time. Happy Father's Day. Go do whatever the hell you gotta do. This is Rocco saying, see you later.
And now it's time for this week's Rant. This man, John Howald, was sentenced this week to 18 years in prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release for shooting into a residence and attempting to shoot others with the intent of ridding a town of LGBTQI plus residents. In March of 2020, just as the lockdown was starting, Howald went on a self-described mission to rid the town of Basin, Montana of its lesbian, queer, and gay community. Howald was armed with 2 assault rifles, a hunting rifle, 2 pistols, and multiple high-capacity magazines that were taped together to speed reloading. Howald walked to the first victim's residence and fired multiple rounds from an AK-style rifle into her property and home, all because of his belief regarding her sexual orientation. Hoping he had killed her, Howald set off toward other houses occupied by people who identify as lesbian, queer, or gay. Local residents happened to be leaving church and stalled him long enough for a sheriff's deputy to respond. When the deputy arrived, Howald pointed the AK-style rifle at the officer, nearly causing a shootout in the downtown Basin, and then fled into the hills, firing at least 1 round as he went. He was arrested the next day. ATF Director Steve Dettelbach said, motivated by hatred of the LGBTQI plus community and armed with multiple firearms and high-capacity magazines, this defendant sought to intimidate, even terrorize an entire community by shooting into the victims' homes, trying to kill her for no reason other than her sexual orientation. Frightening it is to think if he had succeeded in killing those people. What motivation would that have given the rest of the John Howalds of our country to rid their own hometowns of their gay neighbors? It's such a shame that during this Pride season, while we're attending the parades, dancing in the clubs, or attending religious services, we have to keep one eye out for the John Howalds of the world. Be Pride, but be safe. That's this week's rant. I want to thank Kevin Bolling and Trixy Valentine for talking with me tonight, as well as Rocco, and always to Russell. Boog and Shug, bring it on.
I'm glad Lucy Bell is cooking again.
Why is that?
Well, that way we know she's too drunk to leave the house.
There is safety in drunken drag queens, folks. Buy them a drink when you see them at the bar.
Seriously, they're drugs.